The Trump administration has imposed or threatened to impose tariffs on several countries, including China. Trump wants to replace imported goods with goods manufactured in the United States. In the meantime, one commodity crucial to national security is still mostly made in Asia: printed circuit boards, the foundation of electronic systems used in communications and defense. For how would tariffs affect these products, Federal Drive host Tom Temin spoke to the executive director of the Printed Circuit Board Association of America, David Schild.
What are you seeing and thinking? What is this little corner of industry, which is not that well known but kind of crucial, thinking about tariffs and how it would affect systems that come into the United States?
Well, Tom, like everyone who makes things in America, our members are in a wait-and-see mode on the new tariffs that have been applied to Chinese imports. Certainly, we have seen over the past quarter century efforts by foreign nations to dominate certain manufacturing verticals. One of those is microelectronics. Fans of your show probably are familiar with Chris Miller's book, Chip War, which talks about the history of Asia coming to dominate the semiconductor market. Most recently, he talked about how down the electronic stack into integrated circuit substrates and also into printed circuit boards, there is additional effort, specifically by the Chinese, to dominate these markets. And so it's important when we talk about industrial policy to understand it's not American companies versus companies in Asia. It's American companies versus governments like the Chinese that want to dominate these sectors and have been working towards that goal for decades.
And in systems that are used, say, by the military, they have lots of printed circuit boards. Where do those come from? Because legally they can't come from China, but the level of sophisticated boards are not widely made here in the United States.
Absolutely, Tom. The ITAR system that we've had in place for decades now obviously protects certain critical military technologies by ensuring that we have secure and reliable sourcing for microelectronics and other components here in the United States. But as the Pentagon and contractors have moved to a greater reliance on dual use and commercial off-the-shelf technologies, there are opportunities for certain technologies from less than trustworthy sources to make it under the fence. That's why there's been a combined effort by industry, the Armed Services Committee on the Hill, and the Pentagon to make sure that by 2027, a plan is in place to remove those technologies, specifically in microelectronics, from prohibited sources. This is a known and understood threat, and I think that the Hill and the Pentagon jointly are tackling it.
Now, the microelectronics themselves, especially, say, in telecommunications gear, for example, the whole Huawei, et cetera, question, the theory is that the circuitry can be modified in unknown ways such that the data could be sniffed by anyone, including China. But when you get to the circuit board, that's a passive item through which just the electrons pass. Is that a threat in terms of supply chain disruption, or is it also a security threat for surveillance?
I think that we have to look at this as a sort of multi-attack surface. On the one hand, absolutely, we are reliant on foreign imports for critical microelectronics that don't just keep planes in the air and ships at sea, but also power the water grid, the power grid, critical infrastructure, banking servers. There's any number of applications that we would define as critical that rely on foreign-produced microelectronics. So we would like to see a much stronger commercial market to add to a very thriving aerospace and defense market in the printed circuit board space. The second thing I would say is that we absolutely don't want to have an economic dependency that could be cut off or lead to scarcities, right? We are currently left of that problem, and I think that's where we want to stay. We don't want to repeat the mistakes that we saw during COVID, where Americans were waiting for goods and services because we were reliant on things coming across the Pacific. There is an ability to manufacture this technology here in the United States. At one point, we had 2,200 companies making printed circuit boards here in America. Today, it's less than 145. We have created a dependence on foreign sourcing that is, in itself, a national security risk.
We were speaking with David Schild. He's executive director of the Printed Circuit Board Association of America. And there's boards and there's boards. And you used to go into Radio Shack and buy a breadboard that was one layer. But the circuits in high-end electronics are multi-layer, and they're very complicated and difficult to make. Those can be made in the United States, but the supply chain in Asia and so forth has come up to speed too then, as it has in the chips themselves?
Absolutely. Today we have basically 8 out of 10 boards made in Asia, 6 out of 10 made in mainland China. We need to restore a thriving global ecosystem. The Chips and Sciences Act was designed to combat a problem where we saw America only having 13% of the global semiconductor market. Today, America only has 4% of the global printed circuit board market. We think there is a call to action, as there was with the Chips and Science Act, to restore American manufacturing and ease our dependence on foreign sourcing.
So as agencies acquire networking equipment or the systems integrators acquire it on behalf of the agencies, right now the tariff threat could make the cost of that gear go up in the short term, and it could cause supply disruptions the longer it rolls on until the manufacturing, if it does, ramps up here in the United States.
Absolutely. Our industry is waiting to see what the immediate impact of these tariffs will be. And we think that tariffs are one tool in a toolkit. But I think incentives are a similarly important tool in industrial policy. Right now, as we work towards a reconciliation bill on the Hill, as we work to a larger tax reform package, it's our belief that tax credits on the purchase of American-made printed circuit boards and integrated circuit substrates are a powerful tool in our arsenal. We can absolutely say to those who are looking to source in a diverse way, making things in America can be cost competitive with these tax credits. As we've said, it's American companies versus foreign governments. So those tax credits are really a way of leveling the playing field. I'm confident because we have champions on the Ways and Means Committee, folks like Congressman Blake Moore from Utah, who believe in American manufacturing, that credits like this will signal to industry and to the private investment community, we can make these technologies in America again.
To make a chip fabrication plant is a multi-billion-dollar, almost a 10-year effort because of the degree of sophistication and expense and so on. What about boards? There's chemicals, there's deposition, there's metals, there's minerals, and so forth. And in this country, it could take 20 years of environmental review to get a permit to make a circuit board plant. What are you seeing on that front, or what do you hope for?
Well, as I travel around the country and visit board factories, I'm struck by the fact that it's a mix of industrial and really modern high-technology manufacturing. I don't think anybody in our industry wants to flout environmental concerns when we do this manufacturing. We don't think that's necessary. There are steps that you can take to, in an environmentally friendly way, manufacture these technologies and also be competitive. The issue that we have right now is we need these partnerships at the state, local, and federal level working together. I think that's what you saw in Arizona. It's why plants have started to come online and chip fabs are starting to work in that state. But all over the country, and printed circuit boards are made in at least 32 states, those sorts of multi-jurisdictional partnerships with leadership and incentives from the federal government could bring back a manufacturing resurgence. These are great jobs. These are careers that service important industries. And so we want to see government act and not wait.